Right. Apparently, honestly, every single time I do this, I have that same wedge of doubt. Has it worked? Has it worked? Who knows? I think it has. I think I'm going live. Definitely going live on Instagram. I think I'm going live in Facebook. And I think I'm going live in How to Be Brilliant and LinkedIn and on YouTube. All of those places all at once. I've created a tick list. And I'm using my tick list now to make sure the checklist, not checklist, not tick list. Ticking the checklist to make sure everything's done. So I should be broadcasting live in all the right places at all the right time. Okay. Shall we play the intro and then get started? Lot to share today. Here we go. So if you've read any of my books and many of my blogs and newsletters over the years, you will know that I talk a lot about values. And one of the things that I say is that values are right up there with oxygen. Get your values right, lots of other things seem to fall in place. And if you don't get your values right, then maybe they don't fall into place quite the way that you would have hoped. I'm just going to turn those sounds off. It's still getting beeping notifications. I don't know why. Anyway, values-based decision making is basically that you get a situation and you have to make a decision. And the first thing you do is you ask your value system before you look at the data. Okay, and if something doesn't feel right, then you need to act on that. And if something feels very right, you need to act on that. And if you've got a good set of values, then you can use those values to make the right decisions. That's the principle. Sounds simple, doesn't it? However, it's not that easy. Simple, but not easy. And here's why. And by the way, please say hi in the in the chat and stuff, and I would like your comments on this one as well. Very important that you do put your comments in. Look at this. This is a great start, isn't it? David Burgess, magician. OMG, love you, Michael. He's a brilliant magician, David. Very, very good. Anyway, values-based decision making for me. The first time I really recognized it happening was when my dad wouldn't let my brother and I go to the school Christmas party. Sounds terrible, doesn't it? But actually, it was because they decided that they wanted to have the school Christmas party, the junior school Christmas party, which always used to take place in the Methodist Church Hall. They were going to switch it to a workingmen's club up the road. And my dad thought this wasn't right. And he said, why would I want my boys to go to a Christmas party in the same room where 24 hours beforehand, they used to have filthy comedians, exotic dancers, that's what they used to call them, 2 exotic dancers and a comedian. They'd be serving drinks. It would stink of cigarettes. Imagine how workmen's clubs smelt in the 70s. Yeah, like that. And that's where we're going. And the reason why was the new headmaster was a member of the club, so he wanted to take it there. And my dad said, I'm sorry, you can't go. And he went to see the headmaster, and he said to him, he said, my boys aren't going. He went, fair enough. So I'm going to take them out for the afternoon. And that morning, all the kids were all dressed up to go to the school party in the afternoon. And me and my brother just had our normal clothes on. Kids had those little bow ties on elastic. Remember those? Yeah, they used to all that type of stuff. And we didn't. And then at lunchtime, my dad picked us up and we went out for the afternoon. And I remember at the time thinking, you know, why would my dad do this? Everybody else is going to the party and we're not. And now I just so love that he made that decision. Completely based on his values. It would not have been easy for him to make that decision. But making a values-based decision like that, it was tough at the time, but it was completely the right thing to do for him And it turns out it was the right thing to do for my brother and I as well. So that's an example of a values-based decision. I've had to make several during my working life. One of the big ones was when we were offered a lot of money to go and do some work for a cigarette manufacturer, and we, it was an easy decision. We just went, oh, we'll just turn it down. And then they came back, and it was very interesting. The person who wanted to book us came back and said, "Don't worry, we get this all the time. How much do you want?" And went, it's not about the money. You know how much our fees are. And they immediately doubled the money. And we went, no, we're not interested. And then they doubled it again. So from the original amount, it was now 4 times as much to do this job. And I remember sitting as a team at the time, having this discussion about it and saying, do we really want to do this? And then one of the members of the team said, you know what we could do? Take all of that money, give half of the money to a charity like the British Lung Foundation, who were my very first clients. It was interesting. Give half of it to them and then keep half. I was like, oh, wow. That was a moral dilemma, if there ever was one, being thrown into the pot there. And we discussed it and we thought about it. And after a while, we thought, actually, no, it's just not the right thing to do. I really don't like smoking. I really don't like what it does, and I don't like what the tobacco industry does to promote it. So I thought, no, we're going to say no. And it was at a time when, honestly, I really could have done with the money. Oh yes, really, really could have done with the money. It's weird how these things turn up when you really need the money. But I had to say no. The next time, it wasn't that long after, and it was an opportunity to do some work in Saudi Arabia and to go and do this a job in Saudi. Also had an opportunity to do a job in Iran, but there was also a one in Saudi, and it was quite interesting because being given an opportunity like that, you think, is this something that I really want to do? Do I want to do this? It will be fascinating to go there, but I receive my regular mailings from Amnesty and support Amnesty International. And there was a lot of things at that time about Saudi. And we had to say, I'm sorry, we can't do it. Again, more money was offered. The Iran one was quite interesting because with that one, they offered not more money, they offered more security. I mean, you would have armed guards with you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to go and do some events in Iran. Just didn't really want to do that one. But the Saudi one it looked really glamorous, what they were offering. But it just, again, didn't feel right. Values-based decision. Now, here's the rub that goes with this today. When it's a direct thing where you have to make a decision, I think it's easier than when it's one step away. So the reason I want to talk about this today was last night I watched a program about what's happening in Saudi Arabia and about the exploitation of migrant workers, women, and there was a couple of other things about people who were speaking against the government and who people were human rights activists. Sorry, I should get this right. And it was a fascinating program. It was brilliant. It was on ITV last night. I think it was on about 10:30. And watching it, I was like, oh my goodness, this made me realize I've made that right decision, because they said, the current Crown Prince, we're going to open up, we're going to do all these things. And then they said, actually, you've done a tiny part of that, but there's still all of this that needs to be done. And people are still being held in these horrendous detention centers. And they were showing video of that and talking about people who were in fear of their lives, and people who, they were doing compulsory purchase of land so they could do these amazing building projects, and what they were doing to people to get this compulsory purchase. And it kind of made it quite easy to decide if we were asked to do some work in Saudi Arabia, I would say no, thank you. But you know what was really awful? My football club is owned by the private public investment fund for Saudi Arabia, Newcastle United. And I watched the match yesterday. And as much as we weren't very good, I do love watching Newcastle United. And that's where it's difficult. That's where it's difficult now, because it's that thing, isn't it, where you're one step away. I remember, not buying Cape fruit. Didn't want Cape fruit from South Africa whilst the whole apartheid thing was happening, and boycotting Barclays Bank and having this list of businesses that you would boycott because they were heavily invested in South Africa, and kind of making that decision. But I wouldn't have sat there if someone had offered a fruit salad and said, "Does this have Cape apples in it?" You do the bit that you feel really comfortable with. And the question, the thing I wrote down here was, I think it comes down to, how do you sleep? How do you sleep? Knowing what you know. And I've started to really question the whole thing with Newcastle. I'm going to have to really think about it. My brother's a Sunderland fan, and he was taking the mick out of me the other day because I was saying how the was football banter, and he went, "Yeah, but we don't have those owners." And I was like, yeah. Well, I think it's a bit. They're doing great stuff in our community. Well, they might be doing great stuff in our community in Newcastle, but what are they doing in their community in their own land? I don't know. So I would love to know your thoughts. I would love to know your comments. I would like to know, how do you make values-based decisions? It's great when it suits you. It's great when it's easy. The tough ones, like the one I talked about at the start that my dad made, when it can involve you financially, when there's going to be pain for you, it's quite difficult. I've made values-based decisions where I've decided not to be friends with somebody anymore. Remember one time somebody told a terrible racist joke. I just thought, I just can't be friends with you. I can't have you in my life. That was it almost felt, it was a shame, it was a bit of a mourning about losing this relationship. I couldn't have that person in my life anymore. And then there's other times when somebody said something which I think they just need to be challenged on. I still want them to be my friend, but I just want to challenge them and then kind of forgive and see if we can move on. So it's an interesting one to make values-based decisions, and how they affect us throughout our lives. So quick recap, and then I'd love your comments. So values-based decision making should be easy, but it's not, because it's easy when it's a big thing and it's directly in front of you and you are making that one-off decision. When it's one or two steps down, it becomes more difficult. It becomes more challenging. And the classic ones are where you maybe use a product, or you support something, and then you find out that product is linked with something else, or the company's linked with something else, or the football team that you support is owned by a investment fund from a country that you don't support some of their human rights stuff that they do. Oh my goodness, it's a big one. Right, so let's have a little look here. We've got some comments. I can show some of them. So I can show that Noel's here, and I can show that Eric's here. Good morning. And Eric is also having a big day. That's exciting, Eric. I'm unfortunately unable to show the ones that are over here. Matthew Bird says, hi, everyone. Matt's here in the land of smiles. Matt, the package arrived. I've unboxed. I'm going to send you a video of it, and we are looking good. Victoria Wilson Crane's here. Hello from Burscough. Hello, Vic. How lovely to see you. I will be talking to you later on today. It's quite an incestuous group of a 15-minute session where I think Vic's going to be there. Jim Heatherton says, totalitarianism is on the rise. Scary to think that in the next few weeks, Donald Trump might inhabit the White House again. I don't really want to talk about political stuff, but that terrifies me too. Absolutely terrifies me too. Nick Finney's here. He says, good afternoon from a wet Liverpool. Hi, Nick. Good to see you. And what we've got here we are. Vic says, it's easy-ish when it's obvious and it affects me only. It's less easy when there are ramifications for others. Spot on. Absolutely spot on. I'm struggling with it today. I need to do that thing. That's a great bit of advice. Just sit with it for a while. I think I just need to sit, close my eyes, and just think about, what this means taking action on your dreams should be easy, but it's not. I understand that. That's for another day. This one right now is about making values-based decisions. Very challenging, very challenging. And then who's just popped up? But the lovely Jane Summers, just to say hello. Hi, Owen. Hi, all. From Jane, and a kiss. That's a nice thing. All right, I'm going to sit with it. I'd love to know your comments. I want to see as many as possible because I want to have a longer chat about this one and see how it works out. And have an absolutely fabulous week. And I will see you next Monday for another Magic Monday Live.